This says he isn't mine.
You know that's not true.
She was the lie in this family.
Daniel, wait!
This document says he isn't mine.
You know that isn't true. Look at me. You know who I am.
I did what protects my family's name.
He is your family, Daniel. You chose a stranger's paper over me.
One apology cannot repair what I did to you.
A test proves you're his father. Time proves you belong here.
The paper was 1 page long, but it was heavy enough to end 3 lives in a single sentence. Daniel Kong read it twice before he looked up. Under the ballroom's crystal chandeliers, 200 guests fell silent, directors, investors, old society families who had come expecting a wedding announcement instead of what was coming. At the entrance stood Maya Bennett, holding her 6-month-old son against her chest like a shield. "This says he isn't mine," Daniel said. His voice was flat, cold enough to freeze the room faster than the January air outside. Maya did not flinch. "You know that isn't true, Daniel. Look at me. You know me." Beside him, Vivian Cho lowered her eyes and hid a small smile behind her champagne glass. Daniel looked at the watching directors. He looked at his grandmother, seated at the head table in pale silk, her spine straight as a blade. Shame, fear, pride. All 3 tightened around his chest at once, and in front of 200 witnesses, he chose the one that would not make him look weak. "Take him and go," he said. "He is not a Kong." The baby stirred at the sound of his father's voice. Maya held him tighter. Her face did not break, not in that room, not in front of any of them. For 1 second, as she turned toward the door, the blanket slipped from Noah's small shoulder. No one in that ballroom looked down long enough to see what it hid. 2 security guards crossed the marble floor toward her. One of them, an older man with tired eyes, apologized under his breath, but Maya did not need to be touched. She turned and walked out on her own, spine straight, chin level, while 200 people watched a woman carry a 6-month-old baby out of a ballroom like she was something that needed to be removed. Behind her, champagne glasses clinked again. Guests whispered. Some looked curious. Some looked satisfied. Not one of them asked the only question that mattered. What if the paper was wrong? Outside, freezing rain covered the parking lot in a thin sheet of ice. Maya wrapped her coat tighter around her son and stood beneath a streetlight, waiting for a car that was in no hurry to come. Only then alone did she let one tear fall. She looked down at her son's sleeping face. "Noah," she whispered, "I promise you, one day the truth will find us. Even if your father never does. If stories about love, betrayal, and buried truth keep you watching until the very end, hit subscribe right now. Because you will not want to miss what happens to Maya and her son. Tell us in the comments, where are you watching from tonight? Now back to the story. 6 months earlier, none of this was supposed to happen this way. Maya had called Daniel from the hospital 3 times the week Noah was born. Every call went straight to voicemail. What she did not know was that Vivian had already told Daniel that Maya left the country with another man. What Daniel did not know was that Maya had been told the opposite, a message claiming he wanted nothing to do with the pregnancy at all. Neither message was true. Both had come from people who benefited from Daniel never picking up his phone. By the time Daniel learned Maya was still in Seoul, a paternity result was already sitting on his desk. Stamped. Signed. Seemingly impossible to argue with. Maya begged him for a second test. Vivian warned him that even agreeing to one would make him look weak in front of a board still nervous about a company once nearly destroyed by trusting the wrong people. So Daniel buried his doubt under duty. He never once asked why everyone advising him to stay silent had something to gain from his silence. He did not know that Maya had saved every voicemail he had ever left her, stored on an old phone she kept charged in a drawer. In one, he had promised to build her a house with windows that faced the sunrise. In another, he told her she was the only future he wanted. She never saved them for revenge. She saved them because on the loneliest nights in Seoul, she needed proof that the man she loved had once been real. 3 days after the ballroom, Vivian sat in Daniel's office with a wedding planner, Guest lists and venue photographs spread across the table like a done deal. You did the right thing, Vivian said. Now we can pick a date. No more scandals. No more distractions. Daniel nodded, but his eyes kept drifting to an old photograph on his desk. Maya laughing on a windy beach, her head tipped back, sunlight catching in her curls. Vivian followed his gaze and closed it like a door. You cannot protect the Kong name while you're still holding on to someone who deceived you. I know, Daniel said, but even he could hear how rehearsed it sounded. That evening, he drove to Maya's apartment with a box of her belongings in the back seat. He told himself this was the final obligation. One last box, one last conversation, and it would be closed. Every sentence he had rehearsed in the car disappeared the moment she opened the door. Why are you really here? Maya asked. He held out the box. To close this. You already closed it, she said quietly. You closed it in front of 200 people. Somewhere behind her the baby cried. Daniel's eyes moved past her, toward a white crib through the doorway. A small blue sock lay on the floor beside it. I did what protects my family, he said. His voice had already lost its certainty by the time the sentence ended. Maya stepped closer, close enough that he could not look away. He is your family, Daniel. You knew I had never been with anyone else. But the moment a stranger handed you one piece of paper, you believed the stranger over me. His jaw tightened. The lab was approved by my own company. And I was loved by you, Maya said. Which one should have mattered more? He had no answer. He turned and left. But he did not drive away. He sat in his car beneath her window for 10 full minutes, and through the curtains he watched her rocking Noah to sleep, and something in his chest that had been sealed shut for 6 months began very quietly to crack. If you've ever been doubted by the one person who was supposed to trust you first, you already know how heavy that silence feels. Stay with us, because the next discovery changes everything you think you know about this family. The next morning, Daniel requested the complete laboratory file. What came back troubled him more than the result itself. The original samples had already been destroyed. The supervising physician's signature was missing. The only thing left behind was a digital authorization linked to the Kong Family Foundation. Still, one sentence from the night before kept repeating in his mind. Which one should have mattered more? That weekend, out of guilt more than belief, Daniel brought his grandmother to Maya's apartment. She arrived carrying a hand-knitted blanket and enough quiet authority to make her 34-year-old grandson feel like a schoolboy again. Maya almost turned them both away at the door. But Grandmother Kong met her eyes first. I came to see the child, she said. Not to defend my grandson. He has already defended himself more than enough for one lifetime. Maya let her inside. Noah was sleeping when Grandmother Kong lifted him from his crib. His blanket slipped from his shoulder, the same shoulder that had slipped free once before, in a ballroom full of people who never looked down. This time someone looked. And what she saw made her hands fly to her mouth. A small dark crescent-shaped birthmark, just below his shoulder. Where did this come from? She whispered. Maya looked confused. He was born with it. The doctor said it was harmless. Tears filled the old woman's eyes. My daughter had this exact mark. So did her mother before her. It marks the women and the firstborn sons of this family. It has for 4 generations. Daniel looked at his son. Really looked at him without a piece of paper standing between them for the first time in 6 months. Noah opened his eyes and wrapped one small hand around his father's finger. Grandmother Kong turned on her grandson, and for the first time in years, her voice shook with something closer to fury than grief. You threw this child away because of 1 page. Get another test today. And this time watch every single step yourself. An independent hospital across the city ran the second test. Maya chose the doctor herself. Daniel's own lawyer stood beside the technician and watched the samples sealed and personally delivered. No one connected to Kong Group came within 100 feet of the process. That night, rain tapped softly against the porch roof as Daniel sat beside his grandmother. I never stopped thinking about her, he admitted. Not for one day. When that first result came back, I thought choosing the paper meant choosing reason over feeling. I thought that made me strong. Grandmother Kong took his hand in both of hers. You didn't choose reason, Daniel. You chose fear because fear asks less of you than courage does. Paper can lie. Blood does not. And Maya may never trust you again. And if she doesn't, you will have earned every year of that silence. Across the city, Vivian learned about the second test from an employee still loyal to her father. If the truth came out, she would lose Daniel, lose the merger between their two families, and lose the future she had spent 2 years quietly constructing. She summoned the lab technician to a parking garage on the edge of downtown. When he sat down in her car, she slid an envelope across the seat. "Don't change the new result," she said. "Just report that the sample was contaminated. Say it's inconclusive. That's all I need." The technician stared at the money without touching it. "And if I refuse?" Vivian smiled, the same smile she had hidden behind a champagne glass 6 months earlier. "Your hospital receives funding from friends of mine. Refusing costs you more than you think." What Vivian did not know was that the technician had already gone to Daniel's lawyer 2 days earlier. A recorder, hidden inside his jacket pocket, caught every word she said. "We are only moments away from the secret that changes everything for this family. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. And tell us in the comments, do you think Maya should ever forgive Daniel?" 3 days later, the Kong board assembled in the glass-walled room on the 40th floor. Vivian sat beside Daniel as though nothing between them had changed. Then Maya walked in carrying Noah, and the room fell silent the way it had fallen silent once before. Except this time, Maya did not stop near the door. Grandmother Kong stood and seated her at the head of the table herself. Daniel activated the screen behind him. Vivian's voice filled the room. Clear, unmistakable, offering money, threatening a man's career if he refused. Color drained from Vivian's face. "That proves nothing about the first test." "You're right," Daniel said. "So we investigated that one too." He displayed footage of Vivian entering the first laboratory the night before the original result was issued. A recovered email instructed a junior employee to switch the identification number on Maya's sample with another. Then Daniel held up 2 final documents. The first was his late mother's medical record, describing a hereditary crescent birthmark passed through 4 generations of Kong women and firstborn sons. The second was the new, independently verified paternity result. 99.999%. "Noah is my son," Daniel said, and for the first time that year, his voice broke in front of the entire board. "He was never the lie in this family. You were Vivian. And I became part of that lie the moment I chose suspicion over the woman who never once lied to me." Vivian stood so fast her chair scraped the floor. "I did this for both our families. Maya would have destroyed everything you and I built." Grandmother Kong answered before Daniel could open his mouth. "No. Maya brought this family a child. You nearly destroyed him before he ever had the chance to speak." Security escorted Vivian out of the same building where, 6 months earlier, she had watched Maya be escorted out of a ballroom. Her engagement to Daniel ended publicly that same afternoon. Her father withdrew from the merger before the ink on the press release was even dry. Daniel found, to his own quiet surprise, that he did not care about any of it, not the falling stock price, not the gossip that would fill the city for weeks. He only cared about the 2 people standing at the end of the table. Daniel walked the length of the boardroom, stopped in front of Maya and bowed, fully, deeply, the way his grandmother had taught him to bow only for people who had earned real respect. "One apology cannot repair what I did," he said. "I denied our son because protecting my name felt easier than protecting you. From today, I will tell the truth, and I will be his father, without demanding anything from you in return." Maya's eyes filled, but her voice stayed steady. "A test proves you're his father, Daniel. Only time proves you deserve to be in his life." Daniel accepted that answer without arguing because for the first time, he understood it was the only fair one. The months that followed brought no perfect, movie-perfect reunion. Daniel showed up to pediatrician appointments. He warmed bottles at 2 in the morning. He changed diapers badly and got better slowly. He walked the floor for hours when Noah was teething and nothing else worked. When Maya needed space, he gave it to her without disappearing the way he had before. At a press conference weeks later, he stood alone at the podium and admitted his failure without hiding behind Vivian's name. His greatest mistake, he told the room, was not the lab report. It was refusing to believe that Maya deserved to be heard before he made a decision that would shape 3 lives. Slowly, the silence between them began to soften. Noah's first word was neither mama nor dada. It was light, spoken one evening under the warm glow of the porch lamp, while Daniel held him on his hip and Maya laughed so hard she had to sit down on the steps. For one small moment they sounded exactly like the two people they used to be before any of this happened. On Noah's first birthday, Daniel gave Maya a wooden box. Inside there was no ring, only copies of every voicemail she had ever saved from him, and one new recording placed carefully on top. "I don't need you to say yes to anything," his voice said from the small speaker in her hand. "I'm not leaving whether forgiveness takes a week or takes years. I will earn every ordinary day, for as long as you let me try." Maya looked down at Noah, asleep on Daniel's shoulder, one small hand curled against his father's collar. The man standing in front of her had finally learned that love isn't proven through promises. It's proven through the days nobody is watching. "We start slowly," she said. Daniel nodded. "As slowly as you need." And for the first time in almost a year, Maya let herself smile at him. Not the polite smile she gave strangers, but the real one, the one she thought she had buried the night she stood alone under a streetlight in the freezing rain. Sometimes the people meant to protect us fail first, and choose the easier lie instead of the harder truth. That choice cannot erase the wound it leaves behind. But when someone finally faces the harm they caused, tells the truth without being forced to, and changes without demanding a reward for it, healing can begin. Slowly, honestly, on its own timeline. If this story moved you tonight, tell us in the comments which part touched you the most. Could you have forgiven Daniel? Or was this betrayal too deep to come back from? And one more time, where are you watching from tonight? Thank you for staying with us until the very end. This has been another story from Empire City Romance Stories. And if you're new here, this is exactly the kind of story we tell every week: love, betrayal, and the truth that always finds its way home. Subscribe so you never miss the next one. Hit like, turn on notifications, and share this with someone who still believes the truth always comes out in the end. We'll see you in the next story.